Hey everybody, Heather here. So today we're going to be working on a Switching It Up kit, and this time I've chose this cute Whimsy stamp image called Love You So Much. Isn't she adorable, hugging her little snail? And so Switching It Up kit is where I use my Copic markers and I add a few ShinHan markers to the kit so that you can add some colors to your palette and not break the bank. So I've already stamped my image on Neenah 80-pound Solar White cardstock with Memento Tuxedo black ink. So let's color. Okay, so I'm going to start out and I'm going to color the whole image with my Copic markers, and then I will switch to the parts I color with the ShinHan markers at the end. So I'm going to start by adding some ground for my girl to stand on, and for that I'm going to use W1, W00, and my colorless blender. I'm going to start with my W1. And I never want it to stop right here underneath her shoe exactly. So I'm going to go up here just a little bit past her foot. And I'm just going to flick a little bit of my W1. I'll bring this shoe back a little bit more. And we want to go underneath of our snail. And go up here a little bit past the end. Then I'm going to grab W00, and I'm going to go right over the top of that and pull it out just past. I want it to go out a little bit further. And that way we're softening our edge of our line, and we're also using a little bit more of our space up. Maybe come back this way just a little bit. And then I'm going to take my colorless blender. I'm just going to go over the whole thing. And since we haven't colored it yet, it doesn't matter if you color on the snail or you color on her shoe. We're just going along and blending those colors together and soften them up just a little bit more. So next, I'm going to go ahead and add a background to my piece. And for that, I'm going to add W3, W1, W00, BG quadruple 0, YR quadruple 0, and my colorless blender. And this time I'm going to do a little dotty background. So I'm going to start with my darkest color, which is W3, and I'm just going to go, and I'm going to hold my pen straight up and down, and I'm just going to go along and I'm going to add a few dots. And the longer you hold the pen there, the bigger your dot's going to be. So I try to be kind of quick. And I'm keeping my darker colors here closer to my girl. So they're not way out, they're pretty close. And I'll get in here, add a few around this flower, up here around her hair, and we're just going to do that and continue all the way until we get around to the other side. And if you want to have more, you can add more. If you want to have less, don't do quite so many dots. It's just a completely random background. For me anyway. I just try to add a few dots, and some are big, some are little. I'll go over here by the tail and work my way back this way here. But I do try to be kind of quick so that the dots aren't huge, because the longer your pen touches that paper, the bigger your dot's going to get. Okay, so I went all the way around there. So now I'm going to grab W1, and I'm going to do the exact same thing. So I'm just going to start down here between her legs and add a few dots. And then when I go start over on this side, I try to do in a different spaces than where my previous dots were. It's okay to go over them, but I try to add more. So I'm going to pull these out a little bit further. Add a few random ones out here in the middle. And go out here a little bit further away from her head. Go out this way. And still keep some close. And I'll go down here and work my way back up. And you can go as far out as you wanted. Keep them close if you want. Okay, so I've went all the way around, so now I'm going to grab W00. I'm going to do the same thing. So go down here in between her legs, add a few dots, and again out here, I'm going ahead and I'm still touching where I put the other 2 dots down, but I'm pulling my dots further out away from my girl. And because it's such a light color, you only see it a little bit. And plus, when I do over some of these dots I already put down, it touches some of them and kind of blends them and softens a few of them. And just go all the way around here. And I'm going to go back down here, and I think I'll start over here on this side and just work my way back up towards the top of her head. Pull a few little dots out here into his antennaes. Get close up here to the front. And okay, I'm thinking that looks pretty good. Okay, and then I threw in BG00 because I'm going to use some blue on her dress. So I wanted to pull a little bit of that color out here into the outside. So again, I'm going to start down here between her legs and just randomly add some of those light blue dots into my mix. And you can again add as many or as little as you like. And I'm just going to work my way all the way around. And then I think I'll go down here and work my way back. And pull a few out here into the background where there isn't any. That always looks kind of cute. Okay, that looks pretty good. Okay, and then I'm going to add some YR00, and again, because I used YR on part of her outfit, some darker colors, I want to add this to her background. So just go in here and dot, 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 quick up and down, and make sure to get in here between her wing. We'll work our way up here. Maybe throw a few out here in the background that there's no color in. And then I'm going to go down here to the bottom of my snail and work my way back up. I just like how random and fun this background looks. Okay, so I've got some orange in there. Now I'm going to take my colorless blender and I'm just going to go lightly over the top of the whole thing. I'm just going to lightly scrub right over all those dots and just soften them up. And you could also just do the dotting and add some dots, some colorless blender in there just to soften a few of the colors. That would be fine too. It's totally up to the look you want to have. I'm just going to work my way around here and soften those up. And that is it for my dotty background. Alright, since we're switching it up today, I'm going to change my skin tone and try a new one. So we're going to try E11, E00, E000, E00, and R30 for our cheeks. So let's start down here on her leg. So I'm going to start with E11, and I'm going to add a little bit of shadow right next to my little snail and underneath of her skirt. And on this side of her leg, I'm going to go ahead and go underneath of her skirt. Get that little knee dimple she's got, and then pull around a little bit on her sock. And then I'm going to grab E00, and I'm going to fill this side in because there's hardly any left over here. I'm just going to touch down on my E11 and pull that ink out into my white. And then same over here, I'm going to touch down on E11. And just brush that line a little bit. And then I'm going to fill in the rest of this leg because there's not much left with my E000. And I need to soften that line just a little bit more. Alright, and then we're going to move up here to her hand. And again, I'm going to start with my E11. And I'm going to go along the bottom of each of these little fingers just a tad. And then when I get over here to her little sleeve on her dress, I'm going to put a little dab in there. And then I'm going to grab E00, and we want to soften that line. So I'm going to brush right on top of that. right on top of this one. And I think I'll bring my line up here even with this finger right here. And then I'm going to take E000 to fill that in. You brush over these lines a couple of times there. Now for her face, again we want to start with E11. So I want her face to be darkest over here. But first I'm going to go ahead and do her neck. So I'm going to do right next to her collar, then back of her neck. I'm going to go right up her little ear right here, and we want to get inside of her ear too. I think I'll do a little bit on the bottom of her ear right there. Okay, and then I want to go around this little hairline and get a little bit up here next to her little bangs. And maybe bring it down just a little bit like that. Okay, and then I'm going to switch to my E00. And we want to soften that line, so I'm going to go ahead and brush right over the top of that. And brush over the top of this one. Let's just work our way around here on these bangs. And we just want to soften that up just a tad. And let's get in this here in the ear right here too. Okay. And bring this line down just a little bit. And maybe bring this cheek line over here just a little. Okay, now I'm going to grab E000. I'm going to turn my girl just a little bit more here. And I'm going to add a little bit more color. So I'm going to go ahead and go around and fill in her face on this side on her cheek. And I'm going to brush down on this color and pull it in towards the center. And then I'm going to fill in that little white space with my E000. Okay, and it looks pretty sketchy, but that's okay because I'm going to go back with another coat here in just a second. But I'm going to take my R30 and I'm going to give her some cheek color. Let's give her a nice little softer cheek right there. And how about right here? Okay, and I may have to darken those up a little bit, but I'm going to leave those for right now. And again, I'm going to grab my E11. I'm going to turn my girl so I can brush a little bit better. And I'm going to go down here on her neck. I'm going to bring this color just a little bit further into her face. Over here where the shadow on her face is going to be. And then I'm going to grab E00. I'm going to soften that line. So we just want to pull that line right out here into her face. Maybe get this ear again. And I think since I'm brushing this one, I'll go up here and soften this little line from her hair still. There's a little bit of a brush strokes there. And then we're going to grab E000. And let's go over this cheek color. Now let's pull this color a little bit more into the middle. And then I'm going to take my E000 and just brush over that little center section right there. And well, let's go over in here and do this ear a little bit. Okay, that looks pretty good, but our cheek's kind of softened up there, so I'm going to grab my R30 again. And I'm just going to go right over those and darken those up just a tad bit more. So that was a fun new skin tone. Try it out, see if you like it. If you want to stick with the old one, that's fine too. And there's a bunch of different skin tones over on the blog if you want to head over there and look on the sidebar under labels, Copic skin tones, and it'll give you a few to try. So next, let's go do her hair. And for that, we're going to use E29, E25, E23, and E50. And I'm going to start with E29. And I'm going to start right here in her little part. And I'm just going to brush a little bit of this dark color right in that crack of that part. And then she's got a little part that looks like it swishes right underneath the flower, so I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit right there. Like that, and just work my way down here. Just add a little bit of that color. And I think I'll do a little bit right here where it kind of goes underneath of her, behind her head there. And she's got this little spot right here that looks like it's underneath this hair, so I'm going to give that a little dab. Then she's got this cute little bun. So let's go ahead and add a little bit in there, like this. Like so. I think that looks pretty good. I think I'll add a little bit here where this flower is kind of dipping in. And then I'm going to start my color on this side. add some shadow right in here. And a little bit on her bangs. And then let's go up here, and she's got this great little bun on this side too. So this little section that looks like it's curling up, I'm going to give that a little bit right here. And then where it wraps underneath right here, I want to go ahead and give that a little bit of a line. And then over here, she has a little section that looks like it's kind of coming out from underneath. I'm going to brush that just a little bit. And I'm going to call this hair, so let's get that, and maybe a little dab right there. Okay, that looks pretty good so far. So now let's grab E25, and we need to add some more color. So I'm going to go ahead and just go down here, and we're going to brush on some E25. And make sure to touch your pen down on top of the E29, so that you're pulling a little bit of that color. Down here, this piece is pretty small, so I'm going to fill that in. Same with this little section here behind her ear. And then let's go ahead and pull a little bit of this out here. I think I'll actually pull this side just a little bit more, maybe fill in this ear section. And then let's work on this little bun. Brush that color right up. That, and I think I'll get a little bit on that little part right there. And then we want to do the same thing for this side of her hair, so let's add a little bit of color on there. And I'm trying to keep my pen going in the direction that the hair has the lines already. Let's get this little piece right here, and I'm going to go ahead and fill this in underneath right here. And let's add some to this little bun. And I'm going to go this way. And I think I'll add a little bit of this dark over here where it's kind of tucked in. No, she's got a little piece right here that's kind of underneath too. I'm going to go ahead and add some color right there. Okay, then I'm going to switch to my E23, and down here I'm going to go ahead and just fill this section in, because I want this side of her face to be kind of dipped down. So we're just going to fill that all the way in over here. And same for the underside of this little bun. And then up here on top of her little bun, I'm going to leave the top part white so that I can add a little bit of my lightest color in there. Like that. Then we're going to go up here and we're going to do this section. So let's brush a little bit of this on these bangs. And I'm holding my pen more upright so that it can, the streaks seem to be smaller as I get towards the end. And let's go up here. I'm going to go ahead and just fill these last couple ones all the way in. And then we're going to get this little bun, so I'm going to fill in this back side of the bun. And then we're going to add a little bit over here, but leave a little bit of white for our last color. Like that. Now I'm going to take E50, and I'm going to fill the rest of this bun over here in, so I'm just going to go in. And I'm going to flick backwards just so I don't go outside the lines. I don't want to mess up my dotty background. And same for up here on this top part of this bun. I'm going to color that in. And then let's brush to the end of each of these little hair strands here. And again, I'm going to go in the opposite direction just so I don't color outside the lines here. And I think I'll flick right over the top of that end of that E23 just one more time and soften that up just a little bit more. That gives her a nice light at the ends there. And then I'm going to go back with my E29 and I want to add a few streaks. So I just go back in and I'm using just the tip of my pen and pulling down and adding some hair strands. This helps me make it look more realistic. It also helps if you still have a little bit of a line there, because it will add some streaks and cover that up. Now let's do the same thing up here to our little bud. And go down from this side. And add a few in here at every little part. And there she's got a nice brown hair with the light streaks out here at the end. So next, let's work on the flowers in her hair, her dress, and the bows on her shoes. And for that, I'm going to use wire 14, 15, and 12. I'm going to start with wire 14 because it's the darkest. And I'm going to start up here at the flowers. I'm going to go ahead and just flick a little bit away from the center of each of these little flowers. Underneath, and she's got one back here hidden in her hair. And we'll go down here, we'll add some down here to this center flower. And I'm going to go out from the edge of this flower. Like that. And then I'm going to go with my wire 15. Now we're going to pull this out. I'm going to leave a little bit of white on that one. And I'm going to leave a little bit of white at the ends of each of these so we can put our lightest color in there. And then I'm going to fill those in with wire 12. And I'm going to kind of go around the edge and pull back just so I don't go out of the lines. I don't want to get any of this really darker orange into my dotty background. And then if you wanted to add some more contrast in there, you can go back with your wire 14 and put a few streaks here in the middle. Just like we did with the hair. Okay, and then let's go down here and let's do our bows on our shoes next. So I'm going to take my wire 14 and I'm going to get this little dab of a bow right next to the snail. I'm going to color the inside of that little knot, and then I'm going to add a little bit to each side of the knot. Then I'm going to grab my 15 and I'm going to add a little dab on here. Oh, there wasn't much space, so I filled that all the way in. And I'm going to come back over here on this side. And then I'm going to take my 12 to fill it in. And again, I'm going to go back with my 14. I'm going to fill in that center and add a little bit more contrast here at the edges. And that leaves us with her cute little dress. So let's take our 14 and we're going to go down the inside of this sleeve on her bodice. And then I made this little ruffle here at the end of her sleeve blue. So I'm going to leave that. But I'm going to go along the edge of this sleeve, around the back, and add my dark color. And right here in this little swoop where her elbow is. And then I'm going to get right next to this little snail and underneath this little bow there. And then she's got a few little dips in her dress, like this little dip kind of dips in. So I'm going to give that a little pleat. I'm going to go and just add my very own right there. And then same here, it kind of dips in right here. So I'm going to take my pen and I'm just going to give it a little bit of color right in there. Like that. And then we're going to do the same thing with this one. It actually has a little line for us, so I'm just going to go ahead and fill that little line in. And this little line. And then it kind of dips in just a little bit right here. So I'm going to go ahead and give that just a tad right like that. And then I'm going to grab my 15. And I'm going to go up here and I'm going to fill in next to her bodice right here because that's not very much space. And it's kind of tucked behind the snail, so it's not going to have any light shining on it. And then we're going to go in here and do her sleeve. But I want to leave the top of her sleeve some space for my white to shine on there. So I got my lightest color in there. Okay, we're going to go down here and do these little ruffles. I'm going to go ahead and fill in this side. There's not much space right there. I'm going to bring this ruffle up. So just the top of that ruffle is going to be white. I'll leave a little bit of space for a white there at the edge. Same with this one. And go down the back of the sleeve and then get that one just a little bit. Okay, then I'm going to take my wire 12 and we're going to fill that in. Brush right over that. Fill in those cute little pleats. And if you want to add more contrast, you go back with your YR14 and you can just draw some of those lines back in. So I'm going to go a little bit along the edge of her sleeve right here, and dip of her little elbow. And then I want to add these pleats, just a little bit more contrast here. So I'm going to go back with those and just add a little bit more color. Let's add those back in there, like that. Next, so I don't get any of this blue on my snail, I'm going to save that little bow for last and the accents on her dress. So I'm going to go over here and work on my snail, and for that I'm going to use E53 and E51. So I'm going to start with my E53, and I'm just going to brush my pen away from her face. And work my way around my circle here. So let's go up here and do this top section. And I want this side of his face to be shadowy, so I'm going to go ahead and do that side. Work my way down here to her fingers, like that. And then I'm going to go in with my E51 and brush the edge of my 53. Brush, brush. Okay. I'm going to go again with my 53. And I'm just going to darken this edge up just a little bit more. And I left it white in the middle so that when I go back, it will only have one coat of color instead of two. So it'll be lighter. And then again, grab 51. I'm going to go along that edge and pull that color into the middle. Okay, now I want to brush all the way and fill this all the way in. And if you get a little bit on his nose, that's okay, because we're going to color it gray or black. So we're going to color that in. Go back here and just go over this line one more time. Soften that edge up just a little bit more. So next, let's go down here and work on his body. And again, I'm going to start with E53. And I'm going to do his tail over here, so I'm just going to add a little bit of my E53 along the bottom. And up next to his shell there. And let's do the same on this side. And then let's add a little bit to his little tummy right here. Maybe bring a little bit up from this little circle down here. And then I'm going to grab E51 and we're going to go up here and fill in his tail. And then let's do over here. And we'll do his belly. And I think I'll brush a little bit more down here from the bottom up. Soften that line just a little bit. And come around this side over here. So let's go up here and fill in his nose, and for that I'm going to use W7, 5, and 3. I'm going to start with my W7. I'm just going to give it a little brush here along the bottom like this. And then I'm going to go with my W5. And Brush a little bit more and soften that line. And then I'm going to finish it off with my W3. And since I have these colors out, I'm going to go down here and do the soles of her shoes too. So I'm going to do W7 and a little bit on each side. And then I'm going to fill it in with the W5. So next, let's do her socks, and for that I'm going to use C1, and I didn't do anything fancy. I just went along the very edge of her sock here on the outside and kind of dipped in where it dipped in. Same for this side, I just kind of gave it a little dip there where it has a little crease. And then I went along this side, went along that little line that's already there for me, and then I just left it like that. I left it white inside. Next, let's do the blue part. So for that, I'm going to use BG05, 02, and 000. So I'm going to start down here on my shoe. So I'm going to start with BG05. And I'm just going to brush right along my little snail here and pull that out a little bit. And then I'm going to go ahead and go along the back of the shoe. And then on this side, I want to do a little bit on each side. Like that. And then I'm going to go with BG02. And I'm going to fill that in just a little bit. Leave a little space for a last color. I'll fill in a little bit underneath that bow, just a little tad. And then we're going to fill it in with our BG 000. Brush over that a little bit more, maybe this side too. Blend that color a little bit better. Okay, then we're going to go up here and we're going to do the same thing to her accents on her dress. So let's go BG05 first. And I'm going to go right next to my little snail. And then I'm going to do a little dab right above her sleeve right there. And then for her sleeve right here, I'm going to do a little bit next to the shirt. And then I'm going to go with my 02. I'm going to brush right on top of her 05 and add a little dab of 02. And then we're going to fill it in with our BG 000. And then let's go do her ruffle on her dress. So again, I'm going to switch back to my BG05. And I'm a little color there right next to the snail. And then the dress, remember we put a little pleat right here, so I'm going to continue down here with my pleat. We're going to make this ruffle pleat in. Same over here, we're just going to go right along that ruffle. Fill that in. Go right along the edge of this one. And right here it looks like you can kind of see the underneath, so I'm going to fill that in. Go right along here, and let's add a little bit right there. Then I'm going to take my BG02 next, and we'll go in just a little bit. Fill in this side a little bit. And bring this side up just a little bit more. So it just looks like the very top of my little curve there is going to be highlighted. Highlight these two. And this one. And then we're going to grab our BG 000 and we're going to fill those in. Just like that. Then I also used my BG 000 on her wings up here, and I just went along each of these little lines and in this circle like that. So now let's go do this cute little bow. So I'm going to start again with BG05, and I think I'll add a little bit just on the edge right here, and then I want to get this little line. A little bit on the end, just a tad. And then same for this side. Let's do these little curly Q line, and this line, and then I think I'll add a little bit over here. And then I'm going to go with BG02. And we're just going to brush right on top of our 05 and pull that down into the middle like that. And then we're going to fill it in with our BG quadruple 0. And don't forget this little knot here. And I think I'll make it a little bit darker, so I'm going to go ahead and go back with my BG05 and just darken it up just a little bit more. And then we'll go with 02. And then fill it in with the BG quadruple 0. Like that. And then up here on the flowers, I forgot to do the center of my little flower. So for that, I'm going to use E29. You could also do some little pearls in there. That would look really cute. I'm just going to fill those in like so. And that's all of the Copic markers. So now let's switch to the ShinHan markers. So we're going to do the shell of our little snail here, and we're going to use our ShinHan markers, and we're going to use G43, GY47, GY48, and GY163. And I'm going to start with G43. So let's just go along and add all of some shadows in here. So I'm going to put some shadows on the back of this one, and then let's go ahead and just run around the bottom of each of these little curls here. And we're just going to go back up the side, and then I'm also going to add a little bit on top of each of these little lines like that. And then the same thing for the next one. We're going to go around the little shell, just follow the circle there, and then do each little line like that. Okay, and I'll get this bottom one, and I'm just going to come up here to the edge of that, under his little chin there. But I also want to get the back part over here, and then of course do each of these little lines. And then I think right here, whoops, I missed a little spot right there. I think I'll give it a little bit of shadow underneath this bow, and I'm going to do a little bit on the bottom of his shell right here. Okay, like that. And then I'm going to grab GY47, and I just want to add a little bit more color, so I'm going to touch down on top of my G43, and I'm just going to flick right on top of that. Go right over the top of each of those little lines. And then come back over each of these little circles on the edge, and I'm just going around. I want to make sure to touch down on the 43, but I'm also making my lines a little bit wider. I think I'll add a little bit on the inside of his shell there too. So again, I'm just going to follow this line and extend it out a little bit. And then make each of these lines wider. And I think I'll go right along on the inside of this one. And then let's get this bottom area. And extend that little shade right there a little bit. Okay, and then I'm going to grab my GY48 next. And I'm just going to add some more color. Again, I'm just adding more, but I want to leave a little bit of white for my my yellow color I have next. So I'm going to leave each one of those little areas. I'm going to leave a little white patch right in the middle. Just go all the way around, get underneath of his chin there, go around this one, and it's not looking very tidy, but that's okay. And then I'm going to take my GY163 and we're going to go over the whole thing. This one's way lighter, so I wanted to add some yellow in there. So I'm just going to take my pen and I'm going to go like in a little circular motion, and I'm just going to go over the whole thing. Just scrub it around in there, blend all those colors together. Here, make sure to get this one. And there's still quite a bit of lines there, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go back up here to the start, and I'm just going to continue. So I'm going to go again in another circle, just circling around, blending those colors together a little bit better. Get down here on this little shell a little bit more. And then you just let it dry a little bit, and then if you feel that you still need to do it a little bit more, so I'm gonna go ahead and do a little bit more right here. These two look like they have a couple of lines still showing, so I'm gonna give those a little bit of a scrubbing still. And what's happening too is it's also pushing that color out towards the edge of the shell, because I'm kind of keeping my circles inside the little bubbles there, so it's pushing the darker colors out towards the edge and softening those up too. So there's his shell. So that's with the ShinHan markers, and let's zoom out. Whoops, wrong way. So that is our Love You So Much girl, and I think she turned out really cute. So let's put her together. So before I put her together, I'm going to add my white dots on her cheeks with my Sharpie white paint pen, and I have shaken my pen with the cap on. Always do that so it doesn't spray out. And I'm just going to give each of her little cheeks a little dot of color there. Give a little white dot. And then I'm going to take my Spica glitter pen and clear, and I'm going to go over these little swirls. So I'm going to add some glitter to his antennae. This cute little hair fuzz he's got here. I'm going to go ahead and get that. Just add a little bit of sparkle. And let's get this antenna. And then she's got a few little hairs herself that are kind of poking up, so I'm going to go ahead and give those a little bit of glitter. And let's do this one. And then she's got a few little star-like things right here. I'm going to put some glitter on that. And you could also put some on these little dots that are out here. I'll add a couple over here where his hair is kind of poking out. Like that. Alright, now let's put her together. Okay, so my card this time, I didn't tuck any ribbon behind anything, so we can just go ahead and put some things together. So I'm going to go ahead and put my girl onto my mat. Let's give her a little bit of glue here. And you can use whatever trusty tape adhesive you like. Put that. Like so. I'm going to set her over here. And then next, let's do this pink piece, and it's black on the back. If you like black best, you can turn it over. So what I love about double-sided paper, you have options. Make sure to get in that corner there. And let's put it in the middle. Okay, we're going to put that on the middle of our cardstock, our card front here. Next, let's put this little flowered piece, or you can pick the dots on the back. which would look really cute if you pick the black side of the pink paper. And that's just going to go right in the middle of this one. Next, we have this cute little Whimsy die that I'm going to put on. So let's do, I'm going to use some liquid glue on the back of that. So I'm just going to get some liquid glue, because I'm only going to put the glue along the edge here. Like that. I'm going to put that so it kind of pokes off onto the pink piece here. Okay, and I'm just going to kind of tack it down a little bit with my finger. And then I'm going to get this piece with the words. Or you could use the little parentheses side if you like that side. Okay, and then this one. Whoops, and it looks like I'm going to try to, this looks like the words are right side up, so I'm going to put it like that. And this one is even with the pink piece. I'm going to try to line that up like that. Let me see, that looks pretty good. That's why I didn't tack down this little border yet, in case it was a little bit off. I could kind of slide it over here and snug it up against it. Oops. I did that last time. I tacked it down, and then after I got it all together, it was crooked and it was driving me crazy. So this time I'm just going to make sure it's straight. So like that. And then we're going to do this little orange piece. Oh, and it's some kind of border on the back, so you can turn it over if you like, or you can just use the orange side. And that one is going to go, I want to leave a little bit of this flower stuff showing on this, on the top and the bottom and this side. So I'm going to put it like that. So next, you're going to put some pop dots on the back, and I've already stuck those on there and taken the tape off because that takes me forever. And I'm going to put that, and I kind of wanted these little stitch marks on the side of this little border to kind of show here, so I'm going to go ahead and move it to the side so those can show. Pop her up like so. And then next you got some flowers in here. Let's get all those. And some leaves. Okay, so you got 2 pink flowers, or reddish flowers, 2 medium, and a small. So let's go ahead and put all those together. So I'm going to put a medium on top of the pink one. And I made this one so it kind of went in between the petals, so you couldn't see through, like this. And then we'll put this one on. Same for this one. And we'll have these small ones. And this one, I lined it up with the bigger one on top, so you can see more of the red poking through the sides. Whoops. Okay, retrieved my glue there. I flew off the table. And we'll put some on the back of this small one, and we'll put this one on here. Like that. Okay, and then I took my paintbrush, and I took and curled each of the little petals over the edge so that they would kind of bend. So I did that all the way around, and I kind of went further up onto the paintbrush with the red ones, and then when I did the white flowers, I went towards the end because it's smaller. Just roll those right over the edge, give them a little bit of dimension. And I didn't do the smallest flower, so I'm going to do the same thing with this one. So on the red ones, I'm going to go a little bit further up on the handle of my paintbrush, Or you can use a pencil or whatever you have around. I just happen to have this in my little pencil cup. And then the white flower, do those more towards the end. Give them a little bend, like that. And then we're just going to take some glue on the back, or you could take a pop dot or the dry adhesive. I'm just going to take this wet stuff so I can move them around. And I still want the card to fit in the envelope, so I'm going to go ahead and make sure that the petals don't go off the edge of the card too much. They can go off a little bit and still fit in the envelope, but if they go off too much, you're not going to be able to stuff it in there. And mine's kind of looped over the side of the girl here. Okay, and let's put some glue on the back of this other one. Same for this one. It can go a little bit over the side, but you don't want it to go too much so it can fit in your envelope. Then you're going to hold that down so it can dry a minute. Okay, and I may have to push those again in a second. Then you got a couple of leaves, so you can decide how you want those. I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of glue on the back of this littlest one and attach it to the bigger one a little bit. Maybe like that. And then let's put some glue on the back of that. And I'm going to put that one underneath this petal down, these flower down here. I'm just going to kind of stuff it under there until I decide I like it. And then I'm just going to give it a little dab with my finger so it can start attaching. Smush these down a little bit. They're not adhered all the way yet. Or you could also just put glue on the inside, on the very tips of your leaves, and let them poke up too. Then you got a couple of buttons in your kit, so I'm going to go ahead and put my liquid glue down. You can also use a glue dot if that's what you have available. And all the buttons are different. They're multi-pack, so you may get different buttons than what I have, or they may be different sizes. I just threw a couple of buttons in each, for each card in there. We'll just give those a press down, like that. And then we want to add some stickles. So I'm going to get my stickles out, and I stickled up this girl's, the flowers in her hair. Whoops. Uh-oh. Got a big blob on that one. Let's pick some of that up on the end and move it over here. And let's grab a little bit more. I got a lot on that one. And move it around to some of these other little flowers over here. That's why I wasn't too worried about the center of the color of the center of that flower, because I knew I was going to cover it up with some stickles. Let me see if I can wipe some of this stickles off over here that I got all over the place. And let's unstickle her hair. Okay, that looks pretty good. And then I also put some stickles on her wing. So let me just blob some on there and then move that around. And let's do this little bow that he's got. Cute. And you can do accents on her dress, or the bows down here on her shoes. That looks pretty good. I'm liking all that. So that is our finished Love You So Much card using our ShinHan markers and our Copic markers. If you're interested in this kit, there's a link down in the description of the store. Just go to the store and in the search bar type in Love You So Much. And if it's still available, it will pop up. If not, check out the current card kits that are there. And we'll see you next time. Thanks for coloring with me today. Bye.